Vladimir Ivkovic. Welcome to this chat with low frequency. And man, I'm so glad we finally got the time to do this. How are you?
I'm fine. Always as fine as possible, I hope.
Cool. So we were hanging out here in London a couple of weeks ago when you came and played at venue MOT for Together Elsewhere. And who, by the way, shout out to these guys, Rupert and all the crew, because they are killing it, organizing this new series of parties. Nice, compact, basic, which is the best combo if you ask me. So yeah, shout out to them. Yeah, so we wanted to do this in person, you and me, but logistics got in the way. I have half of my camera gear back in France. You have problems with traffic. Well, in the end, we met and we managed to talk a lot before and after your gig.
Yes, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed seeing you. I'm convinced that there is some, whatever people call it, energy or vibe or aura that people radiate, and I can stick to that without going into deep conversation about quantum physics.
Now, a couple of weeks prior to that, I saw you, of course, at Fabric with Lena Willikins, and it sort of reconfirmed to me that great diversity of your sets, and which led me to my first question, which is, growing up in Yugoslavia, how was the music around you? What role did Yugoslavian music play in your life and eventually your career? Can you pinpoint some artists or educate us a little bit about Serbian music or music from the region?
So basically, I can only talk from my personal perspective, because like in every country, also in Yugoslavia, you had, there was actually functioning music industry with plenty of records being released, with, plenty of records that didn't have anything to do with me and my life. My parents, fortunately or unfortunately, who would tell, were really young when I was born. So I was basically growing up in a circle of people who were young, enthusiastic, who did lots of music, lots of art. They were going in and out of our house and bringing records and having house parties. I was really, really small, and there was some gathering in my parents' place, and I woke up, wanted to have some water, and totally was not aware that there are people around and the lights are off. And sometime afterwards, there was a record that was playing like really loud, and it scared me in an interesting way, because everything was dark. I tried to find kitchen, and it was Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, wow, blasting from the speakers, and people were laying on the floor, and it was everything completely dark. So it's maybe as close as you come to some bizarre hippie commune. So those are experiences, probably, this thrill and emotions from very early days, that led basically to trying to find music that not really evokes any of those memories and feelings, but feeds them, because they were somehow very special for me. And then at some point, quite early, when it comes to DJing, and especially nowadays where you have YouTube playlists, Spotify, everyone can be her own DJ in a way, or selector. So I was always into people who had something unique to say, something that was new to me, maybe where their background, their culture, their previous lives somehow were shining through their music and sets, no matter if it's, death metal, speedcore, breakcore,
Sure.
folk music. If there was something that I could recognize as genuinely individual, I was always fond of those things. So basically, that's the thing with music. Again, going back to my Belgrade childhood, lots of records that are sought after today, like wave, early electronics, academic music. For me, those were the most normal, regular records and things. But then again, I would attend some primary school events and parties where everyone could or should bring a record or two. Then they were played. There were like school dances. That was a hell on earth for me. When I would have to listen to Bonnie M, ABBA, whatever was like common and accepted and big, and I would come with things like First New Order, 12 inches and things. It was, but then
there and all these.
Yeah, because that was like early electronic music. Sure. that I can remember, and then some of those things, they were properly licensed on Yugoslavian record labels, so you could buy early Cabaret Voltaire and things also on kind of Yugoslavian labels. And then thanks to the fact that Yugoslavia was one of those non-aligned countries, people could travel, to the east and to the west with Yugoslavian passports. So there was a nice flow of music and books and movies and videotapes at some point. Everyone who would travel somewhere would bring something. Those things were listened together, copied.
Are you still quite involved with the scene over there in Serbia? Like you go back to Belgrade or Niš or main cities?
Today you can be involved in every scene online. So I left Belgrade quite early. It was autumn of '92. Right. And then I kept coming back maybe once a year during my university holidays. And then at some point I skipped like a few years because no one could tell me if I'm still, if I should still like go to do military service or not. Then the country disappeared. I had another passport of a follow-up country, then a third one. And it was too confusing to me. I thought, it would be somehow ridiculous to, go back and see my parents and see my friends and then end up like wearing a uniform of some mafia club, like...
So basically I skipped, but then also lots of people that I knew, they went around the same time, a few years after. But there is amazing music that's happening in Belgrade. There are amazing parties. It's not too much, but maybe this. I mean, there is plenty of stuff. Don't get me wrong. There are those floats with Eurodance and so on. But it is not my world. Sure. I like seeing them from anthropologic perspective and then see how they spend their time. And then some of my friends there think that it's a joke when I ask a bouncer at one of those places if I could go in and see what happens and listen what happens. But one of the reasons is that is society we live in, not only in Belgrade but worldwide. I mean, that's accepted like common entertainment. And it's always, for me, healthy to get out of my bubble. I mean, we are some kind of
and you said it
minority.
You have that view, sorry to interrupt you, from the anthropological side of things. Actually, it's interesting to see how people behave in their own space and just check how things happen outside your immediate surroundings.
Yes, of course, because it's it would be too easy to hate, but I'm really genuinely interested in other people's lives and concepts of surviving on this planet and spending time on this planet.
I wanted to know also, changing gears a little bit here, But in terms of social awareness, do you think DJs and electronic music producers right now should they engage through music or through events and create social awareness? You know, so many issues, obviously, day to day. And do you think DJs should engage on these topics, or stick to the music, or sort of balance it out?
No, no, no. I never stick to the music. Music is one part of the whole thing. And political engagement, political awareness, basically everything we do should be, or it is political, and it should be considered and understood as political. You know, where you play, what you do, what you say, how you behave. I mean, in the end, I see it with my kids who are like 13 and 11 now. It doesn't matter what I tell them, you know, what theoretical fancy concepts I have from my university and so on. The only thing that really works is to be example for them, so they see your behavior, your ideas. I mean, I can't demand honesty from them if I'm not honest
with yourself.
I would like to think that the choice of music, topics, books, appearances every now and then, you know, in a public space, could be an example for, you know, some things. And I spoke with Lena Willikens and Detlef, Toulouse Tracks, many years ago about, you know, should we talk to anyone or not? I mean, it's no one's business. And then at some point I realized that when I was a kid, I actually enjoyed like reading interviews with people. And then some of those things, they confirmed some ideas. Maybe they brought me to some new things. And then I thought, you know, it would be in a way also irresponsible not to talk to anyone, because maybe there is something in my life, in my, you know, work or whatever I do, that could appeal in a similar way, like to young Vladimir many decades ago, you know, to some loner somewhere else.
That's true. You mentioned also, just before, you mentioned books, and I know for a fact that you are a big reader, and, you know, besides music, I know you read a fair bit. Is there anything that caught your eye lately? Is there any book that have blown your mind, just going a little bit away from music? But or, well, it could be a music book or anything like that. But I don't know if you saw. Did you ended up seeing the documentary I sent you about the Kogi tribe in Colombia?
Yes, yeah, that was a beautiful one. And then a few days ago, I finished reading Bulgakov, Master and Margarita, for the, I think, 5th time. I read it in like 3 different languages and 2 different translations in those languages, because also curious, you know, translations are a tricky thing.
It is something I do. I try to always read in the original language, and obviously,
yeah, unfortunately, I don't speak Russian. I read it in Serbo-Croatian, then English, German. Then I found a German translation recently that was somewhere online, you know, kind of recommended as a nice, closest to the original. And then I just like to disappear in those kind of familiar worlds, sorry. But, you know, it's like entering a places where you have been already, but then you miss some details. And then those are the worlds I like to lose myself. Also, there is a Tibetan Book of Death, which is like the first complete edition, should be, of scripts and stories. So I went back to that again. Yeah, let me see. Let me find it here. Yeah, it's this.
I think my wife has that book, actually, now that you mention. All right.
It's a classic, so probably you have it. I mean, probably everyone has it. But I know, like, earlier editions, and at some point, for some reason, I thought about it again. And out of curiosity, I checked what is out there. Is there some improvement. I stumbled upon this, so I enjoyed like revisiting this again. It's also something that should be practiced quite often.
And it is refreshing to. I was away from reading for a few years, and I just started again, and it's just so refreshing to read again and to find the time. I myself, I lost connection with paper for a few years, of course, with all these phone and screens, and I just got back to it. And I'm reading books that I read when I was in high school. There's a Colombian book called. Actually, I think I have it here. Let's see if I am. It's I don't know if you found it in English. I know you found it in French because I found it in French, but let's see, because the background. Yeah, so it's called Que Viva la Música.
I'll make a screenshot, so I'll try to.
I'll send you a text.
I have it.
I'll send you a text, but it's the story of life of the city where I'm from, Cali, in the sort of towards the Pacific part of Colombia, and it's just a story from the 70s, and it's just that it's a fascinating story that I read when I was young, and I just now comparing this with the stories of my family in this. I grew up in Bogota, but the stories of I remember my dad telling me about a few streets and a few places there, and just revisiting this and how current some of the stuff is. He was a guy who. Well, and he killed himself when he was 25, but he got the book, took some pills, and he always said that he was going to do this. It's a bit tragic, his story, but it's someone I really admire. It's actually an amazing book. So yeah, it's always good to have time to deviate from everyday life and just go back into the pages.
It is basically everyday life. It is part of everything. There are piles and books here everywhere. So sometimes I walk and then I stick to some and then go somewhere else. There is another book. So quite often it's not this focused reading. One of the books I recently find and got, fortunately, it's in Serbo-Croatian, but it is something that was published last year. It's a small book,
right.
And it's 100 best lyrics of Serbian hip hop. So I don't have anything to do with hip hop or Serbian hip hop in particular, but I was really interested to read this. Because it's probably the not falsified, not diluted recent history of the region, and lots of those things. I mean, most of
it's
those
as real as it gets.
Yeah, it's basically a history of the city or of the country from a kind of street ghetto or wannabe ghetto or whatever perspective. It's not academic thing, but everything you read in about certain phenomena, certain aesthetic ideas, happenings, it's all there. So 99% of those songs I will never hear. I don't think that I'm interested enough to go through all that. But just reading it as a poetry book, it's not I culture things, but I really saw it as a historical document, or I imagined that it could be, and it is. And it basically tells you so much more than all the official news and media.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
I mean, it's useless recommendation because no one can. It's not translated. It's never going to be translated in any other language.
I take your word for it.
Then again, then a political thing like encouraging people to learn languages and interact with things. So maybe it will happen for someone.
Okay, well, look, going back to music, and I try to be brief. I have like a million questions to ask you, but I know you're in a bit of a hurry.
It's okay.
I often ask this, but obviously South America is a big part of my life, as it is Australia and France. And I was curious to know, you have been there, of course. So you your perception before and after playing in these countries. I know you've been to Brazil and Colombia and other places, and I don't know what ideas you had of the continent, and then musically, had you seen the evolution of electronic music over the last few years?
I have, I mean, what means plenty, you know, but there are lots of South American records behind me. I mean, that's the section. But then I would not dare to analyze or give some statement, because just, for example, if I take Brazil, like basically every 100 kilometers, probably there is new rhythm, there is new music, you know, so probably it takes a lifetime only to explore that. And then, you know, you go to Colombia. I mean, for me, those are, you know, magical, mythical places that suffered a lot, you know, thanks to, you know, European colonial Christian whatever mentality and reasons. So also that idea kind of prevents me to have some kind of judgment. I like to embrace everything that happens, and I'm fully aware of that, you know, when I played there, just a tiniest bit of a culture that is around me at that given moment. So what I always try to do was just to walk around, and then trying to, on other levels, embrace the world around me. And even if it's not a rational one, and how people look, how they behave, how they walk, where they live, what happens, in a hope maybe that, you know, from that angle something will happen. Also, often I release music from Rex Ilusivi, who became famous as Suba in Brazil and died there in 1999. So I know his music from my childhood and Yugoslavian days, and through archive of his music that I obtained from his mother, I could basically listen to his encounters with Brazil in particular, and how that music over the course of, I don't know, 8-9 years changed when he went there in 1991 for the first time, came back, and then died in 99. And one album from that period I released, and for me, just listening to this music, to this fusion of, you know, of everything, gave me some insight. I mean, this archive, there is a field recording, basically, I think from 89, 90. And I heard, when I was in Brazil, from his longtime collaborator, musician partner, that when Suba, I mean, Rex Ilusivi, arrived in Brazil, he came with the recordings of Amazon tribes from the areas that were basically closed for Brazilians. Even if they would like to do this research, like sonic research, they could not enter those protected areas for some reason, probably through UNESCO. Suba had, like, at some point, access to this. And there are files, there are musical recordings of moon people, so-called moon people at that time, some tribal gathering there where he was sitting and recording those ancient chants. And then it was also, for me, beautiful to figure out and confirm my idea that there must be some kind of universal world spirit in lots of those things, because this music sounded not really different from Albanian or Macedonian or Serbian traditional music. You know, there is there's
a connection there,
some ancient power. And then I realized, no matter if it's like Amazon jungle tribes, they're somehow connected with all of us.
Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, again, we are talking about just a tiny bit of all possible music that is happening there. And but my, you know, I would really like to have time and opportunities to spend, like, really lots of time in South America, in Colombia, from what I saw from Bogota, Medellin, between those cities, I can imagine that there is plenty of mesmerizing stuff happening.
And believe me, there's a lot of other towns that I mentioned Cali because I was from there, but I grew up in Bogota. But then there's Pereira, Manizales, other little towns where so many things are happening. I go back every now and then, and every time it just blows my mind. And it's the reason I started this, because between that and Australia, which is my other country, I try to look for those links that you mentioned, and sometimes I realize we all kind of the same. And as far as Australia is from Colombia, I try to always see how we all connect through music, and that was the reason why I started just sort of getting people. And then now in France, which is my home at the moment, but in between that frontiers, they don't really exist, and it's a beautiful thing when you can make those connections. It happened here in the UK with you a couple of weeks ago, which made me talk again about your diversity. And you mix Cocteau Twins. That's something that you don't, it's just so many elements, and it's just something that you don't see your everyday DJ mixing Cocteau Twins. You mentioned you saw them at the Brixton Academy. You were saying that, right?
Yeah, I saw them in Town Country Club, and I saw them in the Brixton Academy. It should have been 1991. That should have been the last Cocteau Twins tour. And then that week in London, I knew that it's happening. And then I had some summer school job in order to finance my trip there, because in 1 week there was Public Enemy, Dead Can Dance, and Cocteau Twins playing within a week.
Elizabeth Fraser's voice reminds me of that of Annika van Gisbergen, who is the former singer of a band called The Gathering. Rather the other way around. Annika's voice reminded me of Elizabeth's. They both were sopranos. I guess Annika is now a mezzo-soprano, but they have that similarity on their voice, and I just love it.
Meeting your teenage everything, this type of voice, it was a perfect match. And the song that I played in London, I don't think that I ever did this, because there are certain songs that I see in almost physical way, and something that could kill you when you play it. But if you survive that moment, it's almost like a spiritual experience of going through something. I mean, this song I listened a lot because my daughter became like really fond of it, which was sorry if it's sunny here. My daughter liked lots of those things, and my son, which was funny because I never actively played any of that music to them, but somehow it resonated with them.
I haven't listened to them for so long.
The night in London was so nice, and I think I even played longer than I should have played, and people stay there. And I thought, okay, it's one of those special, memorable nights where everything.
It was genuine. It was genuine, and I was talking to the guys, and it was genuine. You were set to play for 3 hours. You ended up playing a little over 4 hours, and everyone was just saying it was organic. I mean, it just happened. And I guess what you say, you see the life on the set, on the songs, and people were getting everything, and we could have stayed there forever.
Right. It felt like this. Really. How I would imagine last survivors after a nuclear war, basically. We are in there, it's nice, and you're aware that the moment you go out, it's a nuclear winter, and that it's no one there. And at that moment, maybe from that state of mind, I remember that I have some of those Cocteau twin songs. I mean, I always carry some of that with me. And somehow at that moment, I felt nice, emotional, when there are no masks and no boundaries. The crowd is part of it. The owner of the place, the promoters, bar people, we're just kind of the last people on earth, basically. And I thought it's a good time to play something that means a lot. So if we go out and there is no world outside, at least, the last song we hear, it means something. Yeah. So that's how things happen.
No, that was sensational, man. And as I said, I have a million questions here that I will never. It's good because we can do this again. But I'm also worried because I know you have to go to. Was that?
Of course we do this. It's easy now with this online stuff.
I know. I know you have to go to Bristol, and I don't want to be the cause of your failure, not getting to the airport because of me. But
I mean, if everything goes wrong there, I will let them know where they can find you.
You can tag me there.
Yeah. Responsible for all the mess.
That's it. But look, brother, this has been great. I'm really, really happy to have been able to talk to you in the end. As I said, we have to get you there to Bogota next year. I told you Tyrell Williams is gonna play there at my friend's listening bar of Paradisco in Bogota. So you will fit perfectly on that environment. We're all big fans of you over there, and so one way or another, I guess we're gonna be seeing each other at some point. So, I wish you nothing but the best for your immediate future, and till next time.
Of course. And then the moment when I'm back, we can meet again here and then continue whatever is necessary for your project.
Sure. Oh, my project is just I have a group of 200 friends that are part of my Instagram. I'd never set out to do this with an expansion idea. I prefer a small group of people that like music and than worried about thousands of followers out there. So for me, having a genuine conversation like that with you is the highlight. So hopefully we can keep on doing this with different artists, and that's probably the future of the project.
Yeah, but whatever project life. So whatever traces you can leave behind, it's fine. And then if it means to someone at some point they will find it or not.
Exactly.
But it would be ridiculous not to do things.
Not to do. That's for sure. Well, man, I'll let you know when my label is up and running and I have everything to send you, and happy to share all these new chapters with you. So have a killer set. I know you will. Congrats on everything that's coming.
Then you know more than I do. Looking forward to see few people again, and there is this nice little radio, Nudes Radio in Bristol, and then it's funny how time sensation got completely disturbed. Maybe it was beginning of this year, maybe it was March this year. I think I recorded three episodes for them.
All right.
And one of those recordings, it kind of became one of my favorite things in the last years. And tonight I'm going to visit this radio for the first time live, and maybe play, maybe not. They told me there is a pub connected to the radio. So those are the things that really make me smile. And,
oh man, that's amazing. As I said before, if I didn't have to work at the club tonight, I will head to Bristol and join you there. But it will happen. It will happen at some point.
There is this one, I think, and Lena and I will be back in London, I think in November or December. I will at Phonics, right? So there we'll see each other, and I'm sure we see each other there.
Awesome. Well,
looking forward. Again. Yeah, thank you for your time. And then if you have questions, you know where to find me.
I will. For sure, I will. Have a good one, buddy.
You. See you next time. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Thank you.